Live. Tonight I will be in a panel discussing a lot of topics tonight with Cashley Kelly, who will be joining us in a little bit here. Excited to hear his viewpoints and everything. I will be also having Scott from Woke Societies join us as well, and John Stubbins join us as well. Essentially, all these guys are, how do you want to say, podcasters. But they all have great viewpoints, and they are all super dynamic speakers. And I'm so grateful that they were here and willing to join me on this Pilled exclusive live event. I'm going to be bringing these guys on here in a moment. Okay. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
All right. So I appreciate you joining us, like I said. The thing that we're going to do just to get started here is obviously introduce Scott from Woke Societies and John Stubbins as well. And I just want both of you to just give us a rundown of what you're all about and where they can find you on either YouTube or Facebook or Twitter.
Sure,
John, if you want to go first.
Me? Okay. Sure. My name is John Stubbins. I host a new show called Indivisible with John Stubbins. You can find me on YouTube under Indivisible with John Stubbins, Facebook under the same name. I'm also on Twitter at John M. like Michael Stubbins. So at John M. Stubbins. I'm hosting the show. My producer is David Padrush. He is Mark Levin's executive producer. He asked me to put this show together during the week of CPAC, actually, earlier this year in February, late February. I'm the vice president at Prelude Pictures. We do motion pictures. We've done Lost in Space, but The Black Dog, The Perfect Game, documentary called Running the Sahara with Matt Damon. We worked on Passion of the Christ with Mel Gibson. Our next film is going to be No Show Jones, the George Jones story next year. Currently working with another producer, Mark Joseph, who did No Safe Spaces, which was out at theaters in December. And we're shooting the Reagan film down in Oklahoma, which started this week. So I'm also producing Carter Page's documentary and Sidney Powell's 2 books. And looks like Sidney might be heading to take over the FBI. President Trump has her on a short list to appoint her as the new FBI director. So aside from that, I work with Leon Benjamin, who's running for Congress out of Virginia on the opportunity zones for President Trump. And if you want to know anything else, that's enough for me, brother. I work 19 hours a day. So that keeps me hopping.
All right. Awesome. Great. Scott, how about yourself?
Sure, man. I mean, my story is a little weirder, I guess. I mean, just probably 2 or 3 years ago, I was making fun of everyone that I'm actually a part of a movement now. And just as far as a conservative or a Trump supporter, let's just say Trump supporter, 2 years ago, I was making fun of the man and anyone that followed him. And I was that troll that was online and, just bashing anything this man did. And I had my whole story is, I have a YouTube now. But the story leading up to was really interesting. And I had a complete 180 when I was seeing what was going on with the media and what Trump. It triggered this awakening that I had, and then I started to really dig into everything that was going on with Trump, and I started to realize things weren't as they were being told to us from the mainstream media, and I really started to think on my own. I started to research on my own, and I had a spiritual awakening on top of this. This happened probably about 2.5 years ago, and I felt really heavy on my heart to the things that I was seeing and researching. I felt like needed to be talked about on a public platform, knowing full well, going from a liberal side of things to a conservative more side of things on social media, especially right now, I knew what I was going to be going up against, because you never hear a liberal talk about being censored on any social media platform. And me being a part of that for a long time, going to more of a conservative side, or anyone supporting Trump, everyone knows what's going on social media right now. But I made a YouTube channel, and for about 6 months, it started out slow. I was grinding every day. I had a full-time job, and it started to get bigger and bigger. I ended up on Sam Tripoli's channel, which was pretty big for me. Then I ended up making friends with Methods and Red Pill 78, and I started to get into the community that I'm now in. And now the channel's at over 100,000 subscribers in just a year and a half, and it's just been on fire ever since. So that's where I'm at with it right now. I was able to leave my job, thank God, because COVID absolutely ravaged with what I was doing, and it came right at the right time. And now I took the channel full time, and this is what I do now on a full time basis, just trying to free as many minds as possible and doing what I can to get this man reelected, because it's literally life or death at this point.
Awesome. So it sounds like you're sort of the Morpheus of YouTube, it sounds like.
Yes. I don't know about that, but I'm just trying to do my job. I'm just trying to do God's work here. That's what I'm trying to do.
Good stuff. Okay, so Cashley Kelly will be joining us here in a few minutes. He'll be giving his introduction when he gets in here. He was having some technical difficulties, it seems. So the show must go on, however. I do have a few talking points that I want to hear your opinions on. So first being social media, censorship, social media, and censorship. How has it affected you, and is it good or bad in your eyes? And how essentially, how will that actually shape the future of social media? I'm going to have Scott go first.
It's tough for me, man. I always, as far as social media and the things that I've seen, just being on the opposite side, being on that liberal side of things, switching over to the conservative side, I guess you can say, it's been a roller coaster ride, and seeing the bias that I still continue to see, it really bothers me, and it scares the absolute crap out of me, that what I am seeing right now, especially with Twitter and Facebook. I got deplatformed on Facebook. What was it? Probably about a month ago, when they went through and they were targeting certain accounts for pushing certain quote unquote conspiracy theories. And I got caught up in that. They deplatformed me. My business page, which had about 8,000 followers on it, and then they doubled down and took out my personal profile that had probably about 15 years worth of personal pictures of my family, my son, all the bands that I was in growing up in high school. They completely wiped that off, and they did not give me an option as to download the pictures or download any of that stuff. So it was a personal attack on me that I thought, I can understand the business page. We know full well that anyone that stands up and talks about any kind of truth or anything that's against the liberal agenda, we're going to be putting a target on our backs. But it is what it is. But seeing how far what Twitter supports, as far as the documentary, which we just saw with Cuties, and just the mainstream media and their stranglehold on these public forums now, it seems like they're trying to push anyone that has a conservative voice off their platform completely and silence them just for having a different opinion. And it's not a fair playing level field anymore. It's just not. We have to worry about what we say. We avoid certain words to avoid certain algorithms. We should not have to. We don't live in China. We shouldn't have to do this just to voice an opinion. And on top of it, if you even want to make a living, good luck with that, because they can deplatform you at any moment. You have no recourse unless you have a ton of money and some high-powered lawyers that know how to take on big companies like this. You're not going to get your account back. You can literally lose your business overnight. And it's just a struggle sometimes when this is all you have, and you could wake up and your business is gone. So it just really sucks being on the other side of this. But the thing is, like when you guys approached me about making a platform that was uncensored, and you're going to do live streams and stuff like that, as much as I trust Trump and Barr to do something about big tech and their antitrust, all those things with law, to the Section 230 law and all that right now is not on top of their priority list. Understandably so. The man's trying to get elected. there is a coup that I believe is forming right now in this country, especially on the western side of the country. But we're hearing all these rumors of the Democrats not conceding. So there's a lot of stuff on his plate. So it's understandable. So I think it's better for us to take the stand, trailblaze ourselves, and go find something else and make something that we can rely on instead of relying on big tech to change and our government to change big tech. So I hope this war ends with big tech, because if there's ever a level playing field with people like us that are putting truth out there, they know the damage we can cause, and they know they're going to lose people with their fake narratives and the fake BS they shovel to us all the time. And until that changes, we just got to keep fighting, man.
I hear you. All right. Okay. So it looks like we actually got Cash that's joined up with us. I'm going to let him give it a quick introduction to himself, and then I'm going to come back to John here for his take on social media and its influences and such as far as censorship. Hey, Cash, how you doing?
What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing today?
What's up, man?
Pretty good. Thanks for joining us. All right, so real quick, could you just give us a rundown of what you're all about and where people can find you?
Sure. What I'm about is I'm trying to unite people and bring an awareness to all the things that is used to divide us. Social media, politics, religion, race, all of those things. Stressing the importance of why we need to unite and why we need to come together. Where you can find me at on Instagram is Cash Lee Kelly, one word. Facebook, Cash Lee Kelly, spaced out, my whole name, Cash Lee Kelly. Twitter, Cash Lee Kelly 1. And pill.net, my name.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So back to John real quick. We are just going over our first speaking point here as far as social media. Is it good? Is it bad? Is censorship, is it good and bad? And also, how has it affected you personally? Point here.
Yeah. Of course it's bad. And I would just point to the President of the United States himself being censored on Twitter and Facebook multiple times with tweets or posts. And Scott, to your point, I'll just say this right now. I do have attorneys, and my attorneys will take these high tech companies all the way to the Supreme Court. I'm not afraid of them. And number two, if they continue on this path, then we'll take the message out into the streets. They're not going to stop me from telling the truth, and they're not going to stop our guests from wanting to know the truth. So, and our audience, obviously. So they can do all they want to do to continue to perpetuate this nonsense. But the bottom line is that it's going to come to a head here very shortly. And I agree with you, Scott, that the president's obviously involved in an election here for 2020. He's got a lot of different things flying at him. And if you turn on your TV set any given day, it's something new. It's a new attack. It's a new lie by the left. So, we just take these and we view them with a grain of salt, but we also have to defend them, and we will defend them. But more and more Americans are waking up and realizing that they've been lied to for a very long time. And that takes some time to come to grips with, because you start to question your own, reasonable sanity and common sense as to why you haven't caught on. Okay. Now, Scott, I heard you mention that you used to be on the other side, and being on the other side, you should be able to understand what I'm referring to here. He's laughing. So go ahead. Here, please respond to that.
Oh, yeah, man. No, I laugh all the time because I tell people all the time, I used to be that toxic asshole that would just go in and just anything that was pro-Trump, or I would just totally disregard. I was drinking the Kool-Aid, and I have no problem admitting it. And just like I said, what really got me was the media bias. And all I asked myself was a simple question. Where is the opposite narrative to what we're being fed to every single day? How is it possible that all of this coordination between almost every single media outlet is asking the same exact questions, accusing the president of the same exact thing? I'm like, how is this possible? Where are the other? There's got to be a debate here. There's got to be some counter narrative.
Exactly.
That's what triggered.
Exactly.
That's what started it for me.
Well, let me ask you this. Was there a specific thing that occurred that made you start to look at other things?
It was the Russia investigation with Mueller. That's where it started.
Good. I'm glad you brought that up. And the reason I'm glad you brought that up, and
I'm
Cash,
doing well,
how you
my
doing,
brother.
I just want to state this, and I said this earlier when I was introducing myself. I am producing Carter Page's documentary. This ties right into the Russia hoax. Sidney Powell is a friend of mine. I've also have her 2 books. We're going to be producing both of those. And if you know anything about General Flynn and his case and how it ties to the Russia hoax, so I'm glad that it all kind of winds up there, because here's the deal. The Democrats decided that they were going to take President Trump out no matter what if he got elected. So what they attempted was a coup to get him out, with surprise after surprise after surprise. And it all started with the Steele dossier and the Hillary Clinton DNC that paid for this dossier. And all of this transpired using the FISA court, the FBI, and all of the abuse that happened to people like Carter Page, General Flynn, George Papadopoulos, that led to this nonsense, and $32 million of taxpayer money thrown down the drain for a big fat lie to appease Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Jim Comey, along with John Brennan, spying on an American citizen and violating his civil rights. And we did a big interview on this last week on my show, and you're going to see a lot more about this when we release this documentary.
Awesome. You got me built up, man.
All right, yeah, go ahead, Cash. I want to hear how social media has influenced, well, possibly your life, good or bad, and then also as far as censorship on social media, is that going to essentially shoot them in the feet, or?
They haven't censored me. And the reason they haven't censored me is because I've got people like Sidney Powell or Lynn Wood or Mike Wise representing me. So if they want to try, go ahead. And as soon as they do, I'll take them to the Supreme Court, and I'll sue them for $5 billion.
I heard that.
All right, Cash, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Well, as far as what you talking about, the censorship or how social media?
Yeah, social media, is it essentially good or bad? And then also censorship, how has that affected you personally, possibly?
Social media is good and bad. I mean, it's a place where people could go and they can express themselves, and they can, bring things to light that they want to bring to light. But on the flip side of that, where you get to create your own world and all of that, they got the algorithms to where it creates a world around you. So the things that you're looking up are right in your face. Things that you're saying are right in your face. So you can easily fall into a deception or a bunch of misinformation being presented to you based on the things that you look up, just because you want to see it. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're all aligned with what you like, what you search, what you believe. So it puts that all in front of you instead of saying, okay, well, like, put it like this, the fact checker thing that they got, right? The fact checking thing is biased towards truth that doesn't align with their agenda. So they will tell you that something is not a fact or is false because it doesn't go with what they want to push, or the people that have money or have some type of investment into Facebook, whether that be financial or politically, so yeah, it's bad and it's good. It's good because people like me I just came out right on Facebook and blew up. So now like 330,000 people know who I am now, and they've been paying attention to the truth that I present because they agree with it. So it's like Facebook can easily become an echo chamber for people who believe the same thing, and they don't really put no opposing views. And then the people that do oppose your views come in and they try to troll. And instead of having an intellectual conversation or debate, they end up just wanting to call you names or, make threats or report your page or things like that. So it's good and bad. It has its pros and it has its cons, but ultimately I think it's more harmful than it is good. That's my opinion.
All right.
Censorship is heavy on Facebook. Specifically, I mean.
I agree with Kat.
But not on Pilled.
Not on Pilled. I love Pilled because, like I say, you got the chance, man, with Pilled to do something that's not been done. You got to keep it to where it's not a harmful thing like how these other platforms have become. They've become harmful to some people. You have suicide rates up in young kids are it's crazy because of social media. Yeah. They want to look like they're filters or people trolling them or calling them names. And however you want to look at it, it's become a scary place. To let your kids have a phone now, you got to really be on them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? To make sure that they're not being cyberbullied or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of predators out there. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Yeah. Things like that. There's all types of shit, man, that comes into play when you start thinking about social media. So, yeah, I mean, Pilled has definitely got a chance to be something unique and a game changer in platforms as far as social media goes. So I'm proud of you for it. So far, I'm impressed. I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot more stuff coming that hopefully
don't be like the rest of
podcasters and the like.
Yeah.
So, and let me say something about what Cash just said, because Cash just hit on something very important. And this has happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to all you guys, where you'll post something, say it's on Facebook, okay? And when you make a post that's correct, accurate information, okay? Like, let's say that AOC posts something on Twitter, okay? And then you take that post and bring it over to Facebook. And then the fact checkers come on and say that it's a lie, okay? When AOC herself said it, you took it directly from her.
Facebook is ran by a bunch of liberal-minded people. That's why.
That's right.
Not even liberal, far left, super far left. They have an agenda. They've swayed elections.
Yeah, radical.
They have swayed elections in other countries using social media, specifically Facebook. They have literally swayed elections. They've had people rise up for a revolution, which is what they're gearing to do in the United States. That's what they want. They want the divide. They want a civil war. They want to take people out of positions of power that they don't want there and replace them with people that they can control. That's the whole problem that we're faced with right now. That
brings us into our next topic. That actually brings us into our next topic here. So the next topic is essentially the current state of America. You have Antifa, BLM, the QAnon movement, and I mean, just the unrest, the civil unrest that is happening throughout every or most cities in the world or in the nation. Where has this come from? Why is this the way it is? And who's to blame, per se, maybe? I'm going to start with Cash on this one.
Well, okay, here's the thing. When you say these three groups, right, and we see the way that the world is right now, we ask ourselves, who's to blame? Well, there's a couple different answers to that because you have to look at the whole of the situation. So, who would I blame? Well, first off, I would blame the media. Number one, first and foremost, the media, because they're the ones that put the false narrative in our face that got people up right now ready to tear things up. They're the ones that got people believing that black people was out here getting killed by police at an alarming rate and that we're just being targeted. They're the ones that spreaded that bullshit. And then you go, secondly, you blame the governors and the mayors of the cities where the civil unrest started happening because they did not take the proper action. They sat back and let it happen. They let it happen. So then third, you blame social media. Because social media in front of your face, like if you type in for your gifts, if you type in Black Lives Matter, shows a whole bunch of stuff for Black Lives Matter. You type in Joe Biden, it'll drop a whole bunch of great stuff about Joe Biden. But you put in Trump, it's a whole bunch of nonsense, like just jokes and making fun. You type in Cops Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, a whole bunch of anti-cop stuff and a whole bunch of Black Lives Matter stuff. So you can see the apparent bias that sways people's minds into thinking, if you see every day that cops ain't shit and that Trump's a racist and Biden's the man and he didn't lock up a whole fucking generation of black people during his 47 years of politics, then you're swayed. Your mind is swayed if you're not someone that opens a book or gets your information from somewhere other than the news. Then your mind is swayed. So when we say who's to blame, say, like I say, the fake news, the governors and the mayors, and then social media. But then you have to blame the people who do not look into things for themselves, do not hold accountability over themselves for their actions and the things that they do.
Yeah.
So you have to blame. It's a lot of blame to go around. You also have to blame some of the police departments, like police departments like we use where George Floyd was killed. Was that Minnesota? Minneapolis. You have to look at that police department and say, shame on you, because the cop that actually did that was tagged 18 times, I believe. He had 18 different complaints against him. He should have never been on the job. This is why people will believe that cops are crooked or cops are bad or all cops are bastards, however you want to call it. They'll think that because you have a bad cop on the job so long and have a career of being wrong and being bad that he was able to take a life, whether it was on purpose or on accident, he still did it and wasn't reprimanded before then. He should have, that guy could have possibly lived. I mean, he probably would have died later on because of all the drugs he had in the system, but I don't know, I'm not God. But the cop would have not been in the place to be able to have his knee on his back had he have been reprimanded after the third time of him having a complaint, of him being a racist, of him being a dick. You know what I'm saying? So we have to look at accountability of everybody. The people in the neighborhoods where crime happens a whole bunch, where the police have to have a heavy presence there because there's a bunch of assholes that's out here killing kids. You know what I'm saying? You got to look at all of it. There's a lot of blame to go around, but the biggest blame is the fake news and the crooked politicians. Them are the two biggest.
Scott, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, man, just to piggyback on what Cash Kelly was saying, the mainstream media, I believe, has the most blood in their hands out of any of this because they're the ones that are fueling this entire thing. And it started with COVID. And again, this was the entire plan all along, regardless. The COVID was to keep us in our houses. There's a coup forming, and they already said they're not going to concede during the election. So they're already fueling this narrative and all this COVID stuff already on top of it. But besides the mainstream media, it's definitely the governors. We've seen what happened with Portland, with Ted Wheeler. When we see these governors literally marching with a group that is already self-proclaimed Marxist,
yes.
How do you reconcile that? And then at the same time, the same group turns on him. And all of a sudden, because we saw what happened with Joe Biden's poll numbers, all of a sudden the Democrats just switch and they're saying we're going to denounce the violence as if it wasn't already happening for 3 months already, as if we're stupid. That's why all this stuff infuriates me, because they really think they can just keep doing what they've been doing for decades, and it's just ridiculous. But besides the media, probably the people I despise the most besides the media is Hollywood and the entertainment industry. And I mean, I like sports. I still like sports. I've been dealing with the Black Lives Matter stuff. I'm not a huge social justice warrior with that stuff. I like sports because it takes me away from what I do this stuff on a full-time basis. You have to unplug it. For me, it's a nice distraction. But when I go and see LeBron James talking about Black Lives Matter and how he's so fearful for his life of his own, which we know is the biggest BS of all, because this man can have private security. He lives in a mansion on top of a hill, and you're literally telling young black men and women, or black people in general, you should be afraid. You should be afraid. And it's just, it blows my mind to see people like him, especially. And it's a trickle down effect. And yeah, man, I can go.
Josh, what do you got to say there?
Real quick, do you know why LeBron did that? This is
I believe he has. It's his ties to China.
It's exactly why. His ties to China. Trump put some hardcore tariffs on China. All right, and he's been really shutting China the fuck down in every way that he possibly can, with them having any kind of grip or power over here in America. And he's owned by China. The NBA doesn't have to play for any of them players that got shoes or merchandise to make money. So they're like, look, if you want to keep making this money, if you want to keep the status that you got because of us, then you better say this. Because there's no way he actually feels that way. There's no way. LeBron James barely has a brain. You can see because his hairline goes back here. You know what I'm saying? He does not have his own thoughts. He is remedial. You know? So for him to come out and say the things that he's saying lets you know that someone gave him that speech. Somebody gave him them words. Somebody put them thoughts in his head because he's never had another thought outside of dribbling a basketball.
You know, John, coming from the entertainment industry yourself, how do you feel about that?
Well, the people that I work with are conservatives. I don't work with Hollywood, number one.
Kudos to you.
And thank God for that. Number two, LeBron is from my state, and LeBron barely made it through high school. I played sports all my life, football, basketball, baseball, and played it for, 15, 16 years of my life. And I follow the game. I used to call college baseball games on Fox and Big Ten Network. So I'm very in tune with the sports world, and we're season ticket holders to Ohio State. But I can tell you right now that as soon as I see a BLM flag or one person kneel, those season tickets are gone. And we've had them for 50 years, and we spend money on bowl games, airplane reservations, hotel, food, bowl game tickets, playoff tickets. I guarantee you, my family spent hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting Ohio State athletics, and I see one whiff of it, and that's it. I'm going to tell you that right now. Number three, I'm going to tell you this, and a lot of people don't want to talk about this. I did 2 shows on this where we connect the dots back to the CCP, George Soros, Islamic Jihad, the Weather Underground, Susan Rosenberg at Thousand Currents through BLM. That's where the money's flowing to in San Francisco. And let's back up for a minute here, because this all started with, BLM didn't really get started until Ferguson, but it really started with Trayvon Martin. And Trayvon Martin, if you know the case, you know that the whole thing was exposed as BS. Number one, they tried to bring a girl on the stand. They did bring her on the stand, who was lying to the court, who said that she was Trayvon Martin's girlfriend. She was not. She was an imposter. The court exposed it, and she was thrown out of it. I don't know if she got arrested or what, but she was a fraud. Trayvon Martin's real girlfriend never came into that courtroom. So it started there. Then it went to Ferguson. And in Ferguson, what happened was this. Michael Brown robbed a store. He assaulted a store owner. He fled the store. Officer Darren Wilson responded. He confronted Michael Brown. They got into a tussle. He tried to take Officer Wilson's gun. Then he charged Officer Wilson. Officer Wilson had to shoot Michael Brown, justifiably, and killed him.
By the way,
and these people from the BLM movement, these 3 homosexual black women, they are Marxist, Maoist in their nature, in their movement, and they came up with this thing called "Hands Up, Don't Shoot," based on Michael Brown, and Michael Brown never did "Hands Up, Don't Shoot." So that is a lie. So the entire movement of BLM with these three women is all based on a lie. And it went from there to doing marches all over the country, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want it now?
Everybody that was wrong. From Ferguson. They should have told everybody at that point, when you seen that kind of behavior, we should have known not to buy the bullshit they were selling us. Can I smoke down here?
Well, I was gonna say one thing real quick. This is gonna stun you. I just uncovered this about 2 weeks ago when I was putting together the documentary for Carter, which we're still working on. But I discovered that John Brennan, okay, John Brennan, who works and has his own spy agency outside of Washington, D.C., who's collecting data on all of us, by the way, okay, through this John Brennan investigation, I discovered that those Obama phones, those free phones that Obama gave out, guess what Obama used those for? Not only to spy on us, but for community organizing. And he started in Ferguson to organize those riots.
I believe it.
Wow.
I believe it.
That's not surprising to me whatsoever.
You know what's crazy is I used to love Obama, man. I did. Until I woke up and started, honestly, up until I started learning about Trump and involving myself more in politics, I used to love Obama. And then when I look back at what he said he was going to do and what he didn't do and then what he actually did, not a fan no more. Great speaker, shitty president.
No, man,
I voted. A lot of people did.
He's you know what? And Cash, you make a great point. Obama is an amazing orator. He can speak great. I mean, he gets at the podium, very smooth, great talker. But if you look at his list of accomplishments, a big fat zero.
Negative. It's not even a zero. It's like -5.
Yeah, because he set race relations back 50 years.
And I feel like that was the whole point. That was the whole point of him taking office. Now that I look back at it, he literally, this leads me, the thought I just was about to tell you, it leads me into something. Do you know what I feel the Democratic Party has become? Because this is not John F. Kennedy's Democratic Party. They're completely different, okay?
No. JFK
I said that in a video literally like a week and a half ago. No lie. But I feel like that they are in complete opposition with God. I feel like their battle ain't even with man. I feel like the Democrats, the whole agenda is literally geared against God. If you look at Christian values.
They banned God. Cash, they banned God at the 2012 DNC. They did it on national television. The Democratic Party banned
That's what
God.
I'm saying. That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Every law, every policy, everything that they pass is like, it's like breaking a commandment. You know what I'm saying? Like they're hell bent on just being in total opposition with God.
Well, it's the culture they built, man. This is what I was seeing when I went to college. Because in 2008, Obama was the first president I voted for. And I did it because he was a black man running for president. I didn't know anything about him. But I voted for him because I thought, it would be cool to have a black president. That was me in 2008. And then seeing what he went through. And it's just comparing what I've seen Trump do in 4 years with what he's been up against as far as the investigations, the constant attacks. A woman just came out yesterday saying she was sexually assaulted by Trump. Someone that we had never even heard of just came out yesterday. And you can't help but think about the timing of it. It never stops. And you see what he's doing in the Middle East. And I just remember pictures of Obama getting, I think he got the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm pretty sure he did.
He did.
And I'm just sitting here like, all I remember during Obama is my friends going to war, ISIS rampaging the entire region, and now we have an outsider here making peace deals between Israel, the UAE, all these Middle Eastern countries, and the ones that aren't in it yet, they're looking at that and being like, wow, we're going to miss out. We need to get in on this deal. And look what's happening, the domino effect. And he just did it with Kosovo and Serbia.
I think he's going to be able to do it. I think he's going to be able to broker a peace deal with the Middle East, and that's biblical.
That's it, man.
And that's what's so scary, bro. That's the scariest part about all of this shit is if y'all, I don't know how religious you are. I'm not religious at all, but I know I read a lot of the holy books, especially the Bible. I'm a follower of Christ, right? So I try to be anyway. You look at that. This is huge. Him brokering a peace deal with Israel is huge. Now, when it gets as big as I believe it's going to get, then we can all sit back and wait for the real shit to happen because it's going to pop off right after that. We'll have peace for a little while, and then boom, we're going to be in World War III in a matter of, I'll say, 3 years after that happens.
Good point. That brings me into the final talking point for this evening. Okay, so with the 2020 election coming up, it's very heated right now, obviously. Who do you feel is going to be elected? How is that going to play out on election night and the weeks following? And also, what does that mean for the future of America depending upon which party is elected. We're going to start with you first, John.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that I think America is going to reelect Donald Trump, number one. And I think that for a lot of different reasons. I think the American people are smarter than what the fake news media gives them credit for, number one. And I know, and look, I already know more than likely California, New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Washington, and Oregon are all going to vote for Biden. But in those states, there are conservatives, okay? And in a place like New York or California, a lot of people are leaving those states because they're being strangled by taxes, regulation, sanctuary city policies, no bail policies, criminals. I mean, just an overwhelming amount of things that no American citizen should have to deal with, quite frankly. But these are all Democrat-run cities, and these are their policies. And look, I believe that if Joe Biden were to win the presidency with Kamala Harris, based on what I've been seeing and based on what I know, and I go back to what we were talking about just a minute ago with Cash, look, when you take God out of the equation, okay, and I go back to the Great Society for a minute on this, if you look at the black community, 3 out of 4 homes in the black community don't have a father. Okay? If you don't call that a crisis, then something's wrong with you. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, the white community, it's almost half. The Hispanic community, it's almost half. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, all 3 of those race groups, it was under 3%. And what was different? God. God was present in the equation. And now, what do you see? God's been stricken from our schools. They've kicked God out of the Democratic Party. They took God this year at the DNC, again on national television. They took God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay? So, when you break all this down, America was built on the foundation. Our founders built this country with God in mind. So if you strike God from the equation, then you have something else, not America.
All right, with that, we're going to go to Scott, and please let us know what you think about that. Or actually, who do you think is going to win the election, and also how is that going to play out?
Absolutely, man. It's no doubt in my mind that Trump's going to get reelected, and it's not even just based on his track record alone, just the amount of messages that I get and emails that I get from my followers. I can't tell you how many people have messaged me saying they've been decade-long blue dog Democrats, and this is the one year that they're saying that they're voting. The common theme with all these people, they all say the Democratic Party left me. I did not leave that party. Yep. They're all saying the same exact thing. And when they look at what's being presented to them as their option, it's not even American at this point. And we know the plan with Joe Biden. In my honest opinion, Joe Biden is not going to be debating Trump. I don't even think he's going to get that far. There's already been mentions in the news where he's saying it's the Kamala Harris administration.
Yep.
I've heard AOC say multiple times, we can push Joe Biden to progressive measures if we have to. And this we can see it coming a mile away what they want to do. Joe Biden's going to claim, I think this is me speculating, I think he's going to claim he has COVID or something going on with the blood clots he's had problems with in his lungs the past decades. Something is going to happen. He's clearly declining in his mind. There's no way that man's getting on stage with Donald Trump and sparring. And he has no, as far as what he's talking about, he gives no plan to what he's going to do to fix, quote unquote, fix the country, to fix what Donald Trump has done to the country, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I honestly believe, man, the results we're not going to know the results on election night. You can see what social media is doing and what mainstream media is already setting the stage for. Especially social media in general, they're already saying if there's information out, any of their users putting information out that Donald Trump has won, or if you're claiming there is a winner, they are going to censor you. They are going to silence that. And Joe already said he has lawyers in every state, even the battleground states, ready to legally take on the results of what the ballots are going to say. And they're already teeing it up that Trump is probably most likely going to landslide, but we're going to wait weeks, months if we have to, with these bullshit mail-in ballots that they want to push. And we're just going to wait and wait and wait and not concede and not concede. And the problem is, man, with everything that I'm seeing with Antifa, and I've been really researching Antifa a lot, this ideology that they live by, it's grounded from the Middle East. ISIS and Antifa, they share the same ideologies. There's pictures right now of ISIS holding the same exact anti-fascist flag that Antifa carries around in the streets of these cities right now. This is an ideology that's been carried over, and it needs to be taken care of. And regardless of the results, I believe there's going to be mass anarchy somewhere in this country. I don't know if it's going to be DC, but it's going to happen regardless. And I believe it's going to take the military to intervene. That's what I truly believe is going to happen, because Obama going to Hillary was the 16-year plan. We see it so many times when people say, no one expected Hillary to win. And I remember, because I actually voted for Trump being more on the liberal side, because I knew enough about the Clintons that I would never vote for Clinton regardless. So I voted for Trump. And I remember being on my phone, being with my wife at the time, and I get the results that Trump won. I'm like, how the hell did this happen? And I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. And seeing what I'm seeing now and when everything he's done, it makes sense. Look what an outsider can do. And this is what they're afraid of. We see Grinnell talking about it all the time. Always vote for the outsider. The DC swamp rats, they have their own culture. And you have this man come in and he's changing everything. He plays 5D chess with the media. He's a master troll. And this is why I love him.
Yeah, I love that.
He's a master troll, man. And it's really good to see what he's been doing. And it's not going to get any better as far as the riots, because Barr just talked about charging these people with sedition. And now all of a sudden there was all these things on social media that, of course, Twitter was allowing these meetups for Antifa to go siege the White House. It was yesterday. And you want to know what their excuse for canceling was? They literally said, the rain. It's raining outside. These big bad Antifa boys canceled their event because of rain. I don't think it was because of that. It's because Barr was saying, if you guys can push sedition on these people, that carries a 20-year sentence. There's got to be consequences. And we're talking about BLM and Antifa. The reason why they're still out there doing that is because these governors are allowing it to happen. They get arrested and they're literally out in 2 hours sometimes. Some of these guys got arrested for starting fires, arrested, let back out, and started fires that same effing day.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Go ahead.
And let me say one quick thing before we go to Cash, because Scott brought up a very important point. Yes, you see it over with ISIS. You see the flag. But I'm going to tell you where else you see it. If you know your World War II history, you saw it in World War II. The Antifa flag was carried in World War II, and I'm going to go one step further. Hitler defunded the police, and Hitler controlled the media. Sound familiar?
It's the playbook.
Yep. All right, Cash, what do you got to say about the election? And
definitely Trump's going to win. That's for sure. But how it's going to affect the country, what I believe is going to happen. I believe that Trump's going to win by landslide. Then we're going to hear later down the road that he lost due to the mail-in ballots. It's going to cause civil unrest on both sides. Yeah. Because Trump supporters are already going to be super happy. Antifa and them are going to be super pissed. And then when it comes out that Trump lost, then we're going to be right there where we're not going to concede because that's BS. And then you're going to have people fighting against people. You're going to have Antifa like they did in what country was it? Syria, where they laid siege to certain government buildings. I believe that that's going to be something that can happen over here in America, and I think we're going to be on the brink of a civil war like we are right now. It's just going to be a lot more serious, and then I believe it's going to be martial law. I believe that they're going to declare martial law because of the state of our country, and I don't know what's going to happen after that. I hope that Trump stays in office, but I believe it's going to be hard. I believe we're literally on the brink of a civil war.
Is there any possibility that Nancy Pelosi could become president?
No.
No way.
No. That's not going to happen.
Isn't there some? I'm not well informed on this.
It's mathematically possible,
Yeah,
but it ain't going to happen.
What could happen is like you guys said about Kamala, but I don't even think that's going to be the case. You know, even if Nancy, Joe, or Kamala get it, you're really under the rule of Soros. Soros is behind all of this. Will his will be done if they get the office? That's what it's going to be.
Also, Tom Steyer.
Tom Steyer is a couple of them.
As well.
There's a couple of them, but they all have the same agenda. Is the thing. Tom Steyer and Soros both have the same agenda. They don't care about who's going to run the country as long as their will be done. You know, and that's what it is. So
you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a bad time. Guaranteed, this election is going to be different than any other, and it's going to be a bad time for our country. It's already leading up to a bad time. We're already in a bad time, and it's only going to get worse. And we're an example to the world. People forget that America is an example to the world. So the more we let happen over here, the more other countries are looking over like, oh shit, okay, they breaking down from the inside over there. This might be time to strike. This might be time to do this, or we can do this over here if they're doing it over there. And that's the whole game plan that they want. They want the world to see us like this. I guarantee you how we see pictures of ISIS. I guarantee you over there, they're seeing pictures of Antifa and Black Lives Matter like this right now. I guarantee it.
Yep. Stealth jihad.
You, man.
That's it, man. They inserted themselves into these riots, and this is how they started to do the takeover. You always, even Barr said, it starts out as peaceful, and then as the night goes on, they completely change, and these people come out of the woodworks, and then it turns into violence, man. And just like what you just said, if America falls, the world will fall. Yep. We're the last thing. We're the last gate.
No doubt.
If socialism and communism takes this country over, the world's screwed.
We're the last pillar of freedom.
It's over.
To the world.
That's it.
Yeah. There's nowhere else to run to. Where are you going to go? You know, I mean, and I'm going to tell you something else. When it comes to Antifa and BLM or any anarchist group, Islamic Jihad, the CCP, as far as I'm concerned, and I really hope that I hope that Sydney becomes the new FBI director, because then we can really crack down. But I hope that Attorney General Barr starts arresting these people, charging them with federal crimes, and gives them 20 years. Because I'm going to tell you right now, these people, they can call themselves whatever they want, but the people that are looting, burning, killing, assaulting old people where they come up from behind and knock them out, these people are evil. They have no love. They don't have God. Okay? And if it takes us locking them up or deporting them if they don't belong here,
I agree.
So be it.
Yep. All right. With that being said, we only have about an hour. I'd like to keep going for next couple hours. This is
we can do it next time.
Yeah. So with that being said, I suppose I just want to say this quote real quick by Edmund Burke. The only thing necessary for triumph is for evil. Or excuse me, let me reread that. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I think all of you have hit on that in one way, shape, or another. But with the final minutes that we have here together, I just wanted to have you all go ahead and give sort of a closing argument, again, where people can find you, and basically what you want to say to everybody watching.
I would love if you guys wouldn't mind if I could lead that, because I got to get off here actually.
Yep,
I was
go ahead.
Dinner. So I just want to say this, man, to anybody that may be watching right now. Not only is this election important, but it's important to turn your eye to the other things that are going on surrounding the election, to the other people that are running for office, to the other political gains that are to be had if certain people get to where they are trying to get. I also want you to not be deceived, man. Don't be discouraged. Don't be deceived. Don't feel defeated. No matter what happens in this country, remember that we're Americans, all right? And we have to come together. So we cannot be divided. A house divided against itself cannot stand. So if we're divided against each other, there's no way we're going to last. There's no way. That being said, look, I love you guys. Unite, don't fight, be a street light. It's only you can be the change that you want to see in the world. You can follow me on Facebook at Cashley Kelly. On Instagram, the same thing. Twitter, the same thing, just the one at the end. Pill.net, same game. And I'm also on Patreon. My YouTube is Cash Kelly, the Streetlight. All right, Woke Societies, I want to get up with you, bro. So if you can get my number from Matt, that'd be great. John, I would love to get up with you guys too and maybe talk about doing something. Keep waking people up, man. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, I tell you what, Cash, I'll have Matt give you my info. Same with Scott.
Sounds good.
I can facilitate that. Thanks for joining us, Cash.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. You guys have a good night, all right?
Yep.
Blessings.
See you later. All right. Scott, let's have you go next.
What was the question again?
It's just the conclusion wrap up. What you want to say, your closing statements, really, where people can find you and see your other podcasts.
Sure, man. Pretty much my closing statements are, as you can see the huge Q flag in my background. There's a lot of people have different opinions on Q and whatnot, but my whole point is with all this, for most people, I left my full-time job to do what I'm doing now full-time because I felt it was that important to get this man reelected because I have a son and I was in New York City right as these riots started to happen, and I was still working down there, unfortunately, and I was seeing the hatred and just the absolute disdain that people had for this country. And it blew my mind hearing people saying they were oppressed, but they're so oppressed they can go out here and trash the city with no consequences. It just blew my mind. And I knew at some point, I'm like, okay, I got to take the jump here. It's time to jump in here. I can always get another job if I have to. This is more important than anything right now. And just, if you're into QAnon or into whatever, there's so many ways that people got to this journey, and you don't even need Q to be quote unquote red pilled at this point. And just, if anyone's on the fringe about this, just ask them a couple of questions, point out some facts, and if it doesn't go anywhere, just let it be. Don't ever force this information down their throat, because from what I am seeing right now, with everything going on with COVID, I've seen more liberals and more people on the Democrat side since COVID has started till now, and just seeing what has been going on just with COVID alone, let alone the riots and the burning of buildings and the climate change fires that just so happen to be burning the west coast of the United States, but nowhere else. So many all these things happening. People are asking questions now, and they're coming to the conclusion themselves. Something is wrong. We are being lied to. Just come at your family, your friends with love as much as possible, and just show them as many facts as you can. And I really believe they'll come to it, and not to force anything on anybody. And people can find me on YouTube, of course. That's my biggest platform. I was deplatformed off of Spotify too, and that is a whole nother issue. I would love to destroy Spotify. I cannot stand them and what they did to me. They completely stonewalled me. But my biggest I guess following is on YouTube. You can follow me on there, and I'm on all the other podcast networks. I'm on Twitter now. I got deplatformed off of Facebook, so they can find me there. I do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday shows, and Wednesdays right now I co-host with Methods, another awesome person that we to get the truth out there.
You also stream to Pill.net as well.
Yes, I do. I do stream to Pill.net, which is awesome.
All right. Thank you very much for that. John, how about yourself?
Yeah, and Scott brings up Q, and, I had on my show yesterday, Mike Cargile. He's, in fact, I had 3 congressional candidates on my show this week that are from the state of California. And, Mike brought up an interesting point, and I'm going to do a whole show on this coming up soon on Q. And the reason for it is this. And it's real simple. If you don't stand with Q, then you stand with pedophilia, pedophiles, and child trafficking. It's that simple. Because if you're not standing with Q, Q doesn't support those things. Right. So if you stand with Q, then you're on the side of God, you're on the side of America, you're on the side of common sense and law and order. And if you don't stand for those things, then you stand with the pedophiles and the child traffickers and the people that want to destroy America. So you decide which side you're on.
And then there's also the people that don't know anything about QAnon who really...
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. It really doesn't matter whether you know about it or not. I just gave you the line. Here's the line in the sand. Do you stand with pedophilia, child traffickers? It's that simple.
Right.
If you do, then you don't stand with Q. Right?
Got you. Okay. No, I completely agree.
It's
Okay.
that simple.
So where else can people find you and see your other podcasts that you have done?
Well, mine's not. I don't even know if you call it. Is it a podcast? What do they call it? I know that we're going to be bringing our show to cable television pretty soon. David's working on that. I don't know if it's going to be Newsmax. I don't know if it's going to be Blaze. I don't know if it's going to be Fox. Whatever. The bottom line is we're going to put God first and we're going to tell the truth. And now you can see me at YouTube under Indivisible with John Stubbins. Same thing with Facebook, Indivisible with John Stubbins. You can find me on Twitter at John M. like Michael Stubbins. Those are the three places that you can find me right now to watch my show live streamed. We may be taking a small break just because I have to get Carter's documentary shot before the election.
Yep.
So that we can release it before the election. So
Nice.
I'm just I'm only one man. I'm doing my best.
I hear that, and I hear that. It's an upward struggle. Well, I do want to just say how thankful I am to both you, John, Scott from Woke, and then also Cash for joining me here tonight. It's been a pleasure, as always. Yeah, with that being said, we are at the end of the hour, and I will definitely give you guys each other's numbers, and you guys can reconvene at a later date. All right.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, Scott.
Yes, you too, John.
Okay. All right. That was Cashley Kelly, John Stubbins, and Scott from Woke Societies giving us the real deal on Pilled Live. I want to thank you so much for using Pilled, and please share Pilled.net to every other platform that you have. And it's a completely inclusive platform. If you're a Democrat, Republican, please join. It's a repository, I think, for truth, and definitely we are not censored at all. And again, please share and please red pill this. And thank you very much for watching. Have a great night.